Today you're going to be learning about how the United States gets involved in World War II before it actually gets involved in the fighting. And so they realize that there's some things going on that they need to get involved to help, but they're not quite ready to be fighting yet. So that's what you're going to be learning about today. We'll go ahead and get started reading. It says, after the invasion of Poland, President Roosevelt announced that the United States would remain neutral. He knew that most Americans favored the Allies but did not want to go to war. Aid for Allies. At the same time, Roosevelt sought ways to help the Allies. He asked Congress to repeal the neutrality law that banned the sale of arms to warring nations. Isolationists blocked that move, but FDR won a compromise. The United States could sell arms to the Allies under a cash and carry plan. The Allies had to pay cash for the goods and carry them away on their own ships. By 1940, German submarines had sunk many British ships. Roosevelt agreed to give Britain 50 old American destroyers. In exchange, Britain gave the United States 99-year leases on military bases in Newfoundland and the Caribbean. New policies. The United States also took several steps to prepare for war. Congress approved greater spending for the Army and Navy and set up a military draft. It was the first time young men were required to serve in the Army during peace. Isolationists opposed these moves, especially aid for Britain. I have been forced to the conclusion that we cannot win this war for England, regardless of how much assistance we extend, warned Charles Lindbergh, the hero pilot of the 1920s. Many other Americans, however, felt that the United States had no choice. If Britain fell, Hitler might control the Atlantic Ocean. FDR runs for office again. The threat of war persuaded FDR to run for a third term in 1940. His decision broke the precedent set by George Washington of serving only 2 terms as president. Republicans nominated Wendell Willkie, an Ohio businessman. Willkie was a strong critic of FDR's New Deal. Still, he agreed with Roosevelt on many issues, such as sending aid to Britain. Both candidates also pledged not to send Americans into any foreign wars. Republicans and some Democrats criticized Roosevelt for breaking the 2-term tradition. Still, the voters gave FDR a clear victory, and after his defeat, Willkie worked to win Republican support for Roosevelt's war aims. The Lend-Lease Act. By late 1940, Britain was running out of cash. Roosevelt boldly suggested lending supplies to Britain. He proclaimed that Britain was defending democracy against totalitarian forces. Despite opposition from isolationists, Congress passed the Lend-Lease Act in March 1941. It allowed sales or loans of war materials to any country whose defense the president deems vital to the defense of the United States. Under Lend-Lease, the United States sent airplanes, tanks, guns, and ammunition to Britain and other Allied nations. British merchant ships transported the goods with escorts of American warships providing protection as far as Iceland. The Lend-Lease extends to the Soviet Union. In June of 1941, Hitler launched a surprise invasion of the Soviet Union. The attack, which took Soviet leadership off guard, was the largest invasion force in history. The invasion proved to be a vital turning point in the war, as it brought the Soviets over to the Allied side. It also meant that the Germans had to fight on 2 fronts instead of 1. Much of the American public remained anti-communist. President Roosevelt had condemned Stalin's totalitarian rule, but he decided to extend the Lend-Lease aid to the Soviet Union. And after much debate, Congress approved extending the aid to the Soviets. Creating post-war goals in August. In 1941, Roosevelt and Churchill issued the Atlantic Charter, which set goals for the post-World War. The 2 leaders agreed to seek no territory from the war. They pledged to support the right of all peoples to choose the form of government under which they will live. The Charter also called for a permanent system of general security similar to the League of Nations. When you finish, there are 3 questions to answer. Number 1, even though the U.S. decided to remain neutral after the invasion of Poland, they helped Britain. What did they do to help Britain? Remember, we said it wasn't that they helped actually fight. So what did they do to help? Number 2, what did Franklin Roosevelt do that no other president had done? And number 3, what did the Lend-Lease Act allow the U.S. to do? So those 3 questions, make sure you look back in the